It's Rick from For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. I am so excited to be coming to the end of my semester. I've just got one exam left, and then I'm being released now to be a student psychotherapist in a placement doing an internship. It's awesome, it's glorious, it's wonderful, and I can't believe it's already here, and I want to just fall on the floor and just stay there for like a couple of hours because I'm so wiped at the end of the semester. But I am now a systems trained student psychotherapist with one of the coolest supervisors I've ever met, and that is a huge mouthful: systems trained student psychotherapist. It's the systems part of that I think is going to be so very helpful for the video that we have today. I want to start with a not so simple question so that our heads get prepared for the text in the Bible that we're about to look at, okay? Here's a not so simple question. What is more damaging? Bringing a healthy person into an unhealthy system, or bringing an unhealthy person into a healthy system? Okay, I could also say it like this. Do unhealthy people break healthy systems, or do unhealthy systems break healthy people? If you're watching this video with someone, or if you just want to take a moment to think about the question, pause the video, see what you come up with. Do unhealthy people break healthy systems, or do unhealthy systems break healthy people? While Jesus was interacting with people and doing the work that he came to do, he was doing something bigger than only connecting people with God, which is vitally important. I'm not saying that wasn't a big deal. He was just doing something more than that. He was also trying to connect people with people. Connecting people with God and connecting people with people doesn't happen simply among individuals. It happens within a big or a small community. It happens within a system. In part, as Jesus was coming and connecting people with God and each other, he was setting up a new system, a new way of doing life. And the Gospel of Mark calls that system the kingdom of God. God's system, the kingdom of God, is present right here and right now, and anyone who follows Jesus has the capacity to talk about it and to demonstrate the reality of it by how we live. Mark chapter 12, verses 28 to 34, at first glance, it is not going to sound like it has anything to do with systems, but the heart of the system that God has set up on earth is love. One of the teachers of the religious law was standing there listening to the debate. He realized that Jesus had answered well, so he asked, "Of all the commandments, which is the most important?" Jesus replied, "The most important commandment is this: Listen, O Israel, the Lord our God is the one and only Lord, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. The second is equally important: love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than these." The teacher of the religious law replied, "Well said, teacher. You have spoken the truth by saying there's only one God and no other. And I know it is important to love him with all my heart and all my understanding and all my strength, and to love my neighbor as myself. This is more important than to offer all the burnt offerings and sacrifices required by the law." Realizing how much the man understood, Jesus said to him, "You are not far from the kingdom of God." And after that, no one dared ask him any more questions. Hey kids, keep your eyes on the screen behind me to see all the characters and whatever it is that's hidden in there for this week. And please also remember to watch this week's episode of Connect HQ. Here's a really big deal, the really big point that I'd like to share with you today that I think this text, at least my interpretation of this text, is teaching us. Behavior shapes systems. Behavior creates systems. In this text, Jesus has given instructions on how we are to behave with God and with others. That behavior is so powerful that it creates an entirely new system on this planet for all of us to experience health and authenticity and growth. Here are 3 observations about the text so that we can understand the kind of system that God is trying to create in this world, which the Gospel of Mark calls the kingdom of God. First of all, let's look at the obvious meaning. The text says, "Love the Lord your God And then it also says, love your neighbor as yourself. To look at this text in a very linear way, in a non-systems way, this message is really on the nose. We really understand what it says right away. Love God, love others, very simple. And it really is that simple on paper. Off paper, however, is a different story, right? I mean, simply stated, it is impossible to love your neighbor as yourself. Like, how do we do that? Jesus demonstrated what loving his neighbor as himself means. He recognized that the most important thing that he had was his relationship to the Father, and we couldn't have that. And so in order to give that to us, he died. That's loving your neighbor as yourself. That huge personal sacrifice for other people. So this really sums up what it means to actually live as a follower of Jesus and how to find your own expression of agency. If you're wondering what your behavior should be like, we fall back on these two commands. Am I loving God right now by doing whatever it is I'm doing? And if not, what could I be doing differently to make that happen? And the same question for people. Is this thing that I'm doing right now loving people? And if not, could I do something differently so that they experience me as someone who loves them? So, easy peasy, right? Well, no, it's not. It's super easy peasy on paper, but it's hard to live this out. Living that out takes effort. Living that out takes intention. Living that out takes personal sacrifice. It does, though, give us a great assessment tool for our behavior. We don't have to go very far to figure out if our behavior is acceptable or not. If it's loving, if it's acceptable. If it's not, then we ask ourselves, what do I need to change so that God and others experience me as loving? Let's take this a step deeper now. Let's look at this with a systems lens. Specifically, the text says, you are not far from the kingdom of God. Going back a couple of passages, we see that Jesus has already condemned the temple cult. And just as a reminder, it was a previous video, just as a reminder, the temple cult was the mountain that's being thrown into the sea. The sea is a place of judgment, to be replaced by a new system that's based on faith and forgiveness. That was a few passages ago, okay? But wait a minute, okay? Now hold on a second. Jesus has already told us that there's a system that has been condemned. That broken system it's impossible to connect people to God and to connect people with each other. It's entropic. It's fading out, it's declining, it's in chaos, it's not helpful. So Jesus is saying, I'm condemning that system. But hold on a second, okay? Something's not right in the text right here. Here we have someone who's within that system interacting with Jesus very, very well. He's actually demonstrating faith and forgiveness while speaking with Jesus, even though he's from that system. But Jesus doesn't condemn him. But didn't he condemn the temple cult? Didn't he condemn that whole system? Heads up, you are not a system. You're someone who finds themselves within a system, but you're not a system. The system you find yourself within, it might be toxic, it might be unhealthy, it might be filled with feedback loops. It's keeping everyone in a spin, causing everyone to lose their good senses, but you're not that system. You're separate from it. You and everyone else may be trapped in a system, but you can get out. And that's the case of the guy that's in the story here. He's a guy trapped in a system, wanting to find his way out. He's not that system. It was the system that Jesus was condemning, saying that system, that old temple cult. He's saying that it's impossible for people to connect with God and each other by following that system. So he throws that system out, but he doesn't throw the people out. This guy comes to Jesus. He's on the inside of a bad system that's not very helpful. It's not very healthy. And this guy is noticing the same thing that Jesus has noticed. And he's agreeing with Jesus that, this is about love. This is about forgiveness. This is about faith. Following Jesus and having the agency to be communicators and demonstrators of God's kingdom is systems work. We're not just connecting with God and people. We're creating a space where that connection can be healthy for everyone. We're in a new system that's based on love and forgiveness. Sometimes people get trapped in a bad system and they just want to find their way out. This guy sounds like he wants a better system. And the people around you may also be noticing the same thing, and they're looking for a better system, or you are noticing that you're trapped in a bad system and you would like a better system. So, do people break systems, or do systems break people? And you probably guessed in the beginning of the video that it's a little bit of both. In this particular passage, though, Jesus points out that there are good people trapped in a bad system, and those good people need a hand getting out. Jesus is the answer. He's got a better system. Okay, so let's close with my third observation. How do we make this practical? I've already said it, so I'll make this my closing statement. To make this really practical so that we can live this out, it really comes down to two assessment questions. Here they are. Is my behavior allowing God to experience me as loving? And if not, what can I do to change it so that God does experience me as loving him? And the other question, is my behavior allowing others to experience me as loving? And if not, what can I do to change it so that others experience me as loving, particularly toward them? Does that answer all of the behavior questions that we're ever going to need to know about following Jesus? Of course not, but it's a really, really great place to start. The system that Jesus is calling us into is a system based on love and forgiveness, which the Gospel of Mark identifies as the kingdom of God. When love and forgiveness motivates our behavior, we're inviting people into a system that's healthy for them and that's healthy for us. So here's the takeaway. Use those two questions to help shape your behavior so that God and others experience your love. That's it from me to you. For now, would you please like, subscribe, and share? That would be totally awesome for community, creating community spaces so that you can connect with others and also with God. See you next time.